Okay, in accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, be advised that this meeting is being recorded and will be broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel. The recording of the meeting will be available on the Lunenburg Public Access YouTube channel within 24 hours. Following information has been provided to citizens to join if they want by Zoom, and they can ask questions by using the raise the hand feature. We have an agenda. There may be votes taken on agenda items. Not all items listed may be in fact discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion. So we are underway, and we have introduced ourselves prior to the recording to our guest, which is Chris Riley, who's the town's relatively new land use director. And Chris and I had a chance to run into each other earlier in the week, and I invited him to participate in our meeting tonight. We had talked about having him be a part of our meetings before, and we're glad that you could then take the time to be with us. Chris, I'd like to ask you to do a couple of things. One, just kind of give us your background, and then after you do that, what are your top three issues as the land use director? And then, depending on how those conversations go, we may have some questions for you. So a little bit about your background and what your top four issues might be as the new land use director for Lunenburg.
Sure, great. Well, I've been sort of a circuit rider of sorts in my planning career. I've been all over the place, and down to the South Coast, and way up in Salisbury, and all in between. And in my many stops and experiences, I always really enjoyed working with boards like you folks. Working on the important and difficult challenge of maintaining architectural preservation in this village center. So it's part of the reason why I was interested in this job and came here to work with you folks. So it's an important sort of ethos of mine, and as a planner, it should be. and so all these years, I've picked up a lot. I've worked in historic districts. I've helped historic commissions do all sorts of regulations and bylaws and demolition delays and implement them. So there's a lot of experience there that, it sort of deals with the kind of things you guys grapple with. But three things, obviously you haven't had the sort of experience and stability in this position for a long time that you really need. And Lunenburg is sort of like on the border of, I wouldn't say, the hordes invading, but we don't live in a vacuum. And so part of the appeal of this job is that I could come here and help you folks to maintain the character of Lunenburg while, try to manage the change as well. And number two is just do the variety of things that Lunenburg does. I really liked just how many different areas and activities Lunenburg was involved in when this job first appeared. And so I thought after 30 years, this is sort of what I've prepared for, and I'd really like to get back to the hands-on type of planning position that you folks sort of emphasize. So, and number three is you do all the right things. The master plan's being updated slowly but surely, and you're focusing on the right things. But there's forks in the road, and you can make fateful decisions, go down a fork and think it's the right decision, but a lot of these things need a lot of thoughtful consideration and some technical expertise and toolkits to help you sort of make the right choice. So always the town's choice, but to have sort of professional staff, and we've got some good people in Ritter to do that and support you, that's critical. And so I value that, and it's a job for me, but I want to enjoy it as well, and I don't want to twiddle my thumbs counting cars all day. So I saw this as a hands-on sort of position, and that's why I'm going to be there to support you in whatever you need. You don't need me. I mean, you guys, know your stuff, and it's all up to you, how and when you want to utilize me, but I will be available. That sort of cover it?
Yes, it did. Thank you. Any questions, Richard, Nathan?
Nope, it sounded great. Thanks.
Okay, we're pretty good about keeping to our hours, time, Chris, so you can spend as much time with us as you want. And if you leave, just say, hey, I'm bugging out. But you can stay with us and go through with us on our agenda items. We have no other members of the public with us, and there's nobody else on Zoom. So I'm gonna ask for approval of, both the 14 November, ask for a motion for approval of 14 November and 12 December meeting minutes. And thank you once again, Wayne, for getting those out to us.
Motion to approve?
Okay, is there a
I
second?
second it.
Any discussion?
Well, we do approving I was at the November, not at the December, so are we approving one at a time or?
Yeah, we'll approve them one at a time if you want to do it that way, since you weren't here. Let's do the November meeting minutes first. I have a couple little typographical issues. William, I'm gonna go ahead and I marked them off. I'm gonna go ahead. They're just things like, you know, pretty minor in nature. I don't think they changed the nature of the meeting minutes. So is there a motion to approve the 14 November meeting minutes with those slight typographical changes indicated? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Motion first.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I got a motion. I thought I got a motion.
I motion.
Yeah, William got
Second.
second. All right, thank you. Any other further discussion? All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes with small typographical changes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so that's approved. The December meeting minutes, same thing, like on one of the can pack we brought into town hall. You had just one C, it has two Cs, so those are the kinds of changes that I've noted. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes from December?
Motion.
Okay,
Second.
all right, any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, those meeting minutes have been approved. So if you make those few changes and then just send those off to the town clerk, go away and greatly appreciate that. Okay, let's go into current business. The Historical Commission in the Town Pound update. Richard, you asked me to put that on the agenda.
Yes.
So over to you.
Okay, Historical Commission is involved with the town survey of the Cyrus Kilburn houses from the I think it's 1833 Cyrus Kilburn map. Cyrus Kilburn was a surveyor in town and did a map with all the existing houses at the time. So with Historical Commission is undergoing a project where we've hired a consultant to do the research. So he's going to do a survey of all the existing houses that are on that map, plus Marshall Park, the Goodrich Cemetery plot is a family cemetery plot at the corner of Fish and Lincoln Street, and the desecrated Arnold Litch Cemetery on West Street Terrace, as well as a militia training ground that was on the common. So he's going to do research into these houses, document them, hopefully have them documented so that if this owner chooses, he can have it nominated for the National Register. So that's ongoing. I met with him today at the Historical Society. We went over all the resources at the society that are available to him. And then I drove him around to all the houses that I thought were part of that map in the south and west of town. And tomorrow we'll take care of the east and north sides of town. So he's getting oriented to the area. He's from Vermont, so he's never been here before. So I'm taking him around, showing him the streets and getting him used to the town. Then he's going to photograph these at a later date. The project will be completed sometime later in the year. So that's ongoing. I had the town pound, I thought should be on, Horizons. It dates from, I think, 1763 or 64. And is in need of, some maintenance and attention with, large trees encroaching on the, structure, as well as, some of the stones are falling out, and the gate needs maintenance, and the, sign needs to be painted, and I would hope to have a, historical sign, put up there, that, talks about the history of that place.
How do you propose to get the maintenance done? By volunteer or?
Yeah, I think it can be done with volunteers. Yeah, it's easy enough. I have an outline plan that I've had for years to do that project, so.
Can you share that with me?
I would supervise it, yeah, dig it out.
Send it over and then we'll take a look. Is
Also,
it something you can email or is it something you'd have to hand carry?
I can email it to you, yeah.
Okay, good.
Also, that pound is in Marshall Park, so it's under the jurisdiction of the Parks Department, so that would have to be coordinated with them.
Okay. The notion of having a town pond and it still exists is fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a historic gem that we really need to make sure it doesn't disappear.
Yes,
So, and it's within the APD, so it makes sense for us to be involved with that.
yeah, it was,
And, you know, if you get a volunteer party together,
Mhm.
count me in as a volunteer.
yeah, it was proposed by John Fitch in the 1760s at town meeting to build that, and it was authorized.
Wow. And that's where like the stray cows and the stray
Yeah.
goats that were roaming around town, that's where they went and the owner had to go down there to claim them,
Yes,
right?
yeah,
That's crazy.
it's cool.
Yeah, tell me in as a
My,
volunteer as
dog.
well. Yeah.
What was that?
Tell me in as a volunteer as well.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Yeah, my daughter-in-law had to stop on Lancaster Avenue for a cow that apparently had come from Stillman's farm.
Wow.
This is like last year.
Yeah.
And she was telling me this. I says, oh, it's a good thing it wasn't back in the old days. Stillman's would have had to go down to Town Pond and get their cow.
Bring them to the pound.
Yeah, she ended up calling the police, said, says, there's a cow walking on Lancaster Avenue. And they come down and go, oh, this isn't the first time we've had to bring the cow back to the farm. Okay, well, Richard, thanks for the update. I think that the survey that you've launched, for the historic houses, I think that's gonna have a play in what is our next topic for discussion, and that's the merger of both the Historic Commission and the APD.
Oh, one other thing is
Yeah.
the historic Hometown Heroes Banners Project that the Historical Commission proposed for the, would mostly be in the APD. So that, we're still trying to get that going. Jennifer Sanderson was going to call Carter to meet with him to get his input on that project.
Okay.
So that's the where they put banners up for local servicemen from the past and present on telephone poles. You've seen that in other communities. So we hope to get that going here.
Okay, so let's talk about the Historical Commission and the APDC merger. I actually spoke to Carter today, and the town council has not been, engaged yet to do the legal review. And Carter confirmed that today in a conversation I had with him. And I think that he has shared with me his concerns about making significant changes in terms of the bylaw and having the APD bylaw affect the entire town. And he says, I think that if you try to do that, he says, I think that it will not be successful, when we present this to town meeting. He says, I do think it's a great idea to merge the two groups for the purpose of you know, having a smaller demand for volunteers. He says, I think that that has real merit and real value, and I agree with that. I mentioned to him my concerns about whether the APD bylaw would really stand a court challenge. You know, if we tell somebody you can't do that, or, you know, for example, if we issue, you know, like a letter saying that, a property owner is engaged in demolition by neglect, and we have some viable candidates for receiving that letter in the town, that would not be something that the town would feel comfortable taking to court. And
Wait, who said that?
I said that. And the reason why I said that is because of the conversation I had with Adam Costa back in, you know, 2 months ago. And that was what I really wanted, you know, Adam to explore. And so far he hasn't done that.
Well, actually, I think Adam there was legal review when this was proposed for the town to pass.
Yeah, it was. But
And-
Adam wasn't the attorney.
So it has had legal review by town council. So I don't think, you know, the town paid a competent lawyer to review that. They reviewed it. I don't know why we're second guessing it, especially as the APDC. It makes no sense at all to me.
Well, this is what Adam suggested, and he says, I need to research whether or not the bylaw went through the Attorney General's office for review. And that hasn't happened yet. But Carter asked me.
What hasn't happened? He hasn't researched it, or?
No, he hasn't researched it. Carter hasn't told him to do that yet. And what Carter asked me to do today, he says, go to the town clerk and ask them to pull the file on the APD bylaw and see what review it had by the Massachusetts Attorney General's office and what was in there. He says, you can do that. He says, you know, they should have that information. And he says, let's start with that. He says, and then I won't have to ask Adam to do that piece.
Well, how would the whole thing be set up if it wasn't approved?
Because the way it works, according to Adam,
Yeah,
and according to Carter, is that the town can pass bylaws, and then after the bylaws are passed, then they go before the Massachusetts Attorney General's office,
Mhm.
and they say, we agree with the bylaw, no problems. We disagree with the bylaw, and here are some of the issues. Or we don't agree with the bylaw, but we think that the risk of issues coming about might be negligible. You know, so they pass that information back to the town,
Yeah.
and then the town has to decide what they're gonna do with the information provided by the Massachusetts Attorney General's office.
do you recall getting the letter?
Yes.
Point of information,
Yeah,
you can do that online. You can go to the AG's website, to the municipal law section of their website, and you can research every zoning determination they've made for the town of Lunenburg, as long as they've been doing it.
okay, so what Carter didn't tell me that. So I'm getting input, you know, additional input from you. But I think what I'm gonna do is what Carter suggested.
Okay,
Go to the town clerk's office, pull that file, and then I'll pursue what you've indicated. I've been quite impressed with the information that Massachusetts keeps online related to, this is a mass.gov issue, you know, I'll have to go on mass.gov to confirm that. But I want to see what the town clerk has first. And Carter says I says, Tony, you won't get it this afternoon. We had this conversation about 2:00 this afternoon. And he says, but you should have it by Tuesday. You'll know what was sent forward. My real fear is that nothing was sent forward, you know, so there may not be a review.
Yeah, so in a future conversations about this, I think should be done in executive session. They have serious legal ramifications. I mean, we had a pretty prestigious firm before Costa, which was Koppelman and Page.
Mhm.
And I mean, people take shortcuts and do dumb things, so nothing's impossible. But I wouldn't operate on the assumption that the bylaw, which is the reason we're sitting here today, is not enforceable.
I think that, you know, anything's possible, Nathan, as you just said. And my real fear is that this bylaw got changed at the same time that the town council got changed. And Adam told me that. Adam said that, he agreed with, his statements were, town head council most likely looked at this. He says, but sometimes it takes a while for that information to be responded to by the Attorney General's office. He says, and there was a period in time when the town didn't have town council. So that's kind of where I think that maybe this fell through the crack. Regardless of whether it got reviewed, I want to know what the Attorney General said about the bylaw. If we have no issues, then that kind of helps support
Sure.
what we want to do.
Yeah.
But if we do have issues,
Sure. And
that's
let's-
gonna be an
So
undermine.
I'll make a motion that all further conversation on our board about this issue be done in an executive session until we have clearer information about the outcome of it.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
I,
All right, so we'll do it that way. All right, so I will gather information.
Okay.
And then we'll bring that back. Okay, we're gonna have to move fairly quickly here though on that, because if we want this to be on the, there's been a schedule established for, the warrants. And, we have to have, the language associated with the merger done for, I think, was it March 17th, Chris? Is that what I heard?
Yeah. March 17th, warrant closes.
Yeah, so we'll have to be fairly quick here about this, and what kind of strategy that we want to use with regards to this merger. The one thing that I think that might be helpful for us is, let's merge the bodies together with both the APD intact and the Historic Commission guidelines and governing regulations from the state, without there being any changes, so that the bylaw that affects the Architectural Preservation District may now be managed by a combined board, but those regulations don't go beyond the Architectural Preservation District. We can merge, I think, the two bodies and keep the regulations, I think, without too much trouble at a town meeting vote.
all right, yeah, so
We do this
So
incrementally.
you're proposing that would be your intent, that's how you'd like to see it done?
Yeah,
Okay, I mean, I don't particularly disagree with that, I mean, it kind of keeps it simple.
yeah.
That said, wanting to keep it simple and being able to keep it simple, maybe two different things, right? Like, I think we do need town council's input, particularly because what we've been told before is the historical committee, there's the authorization of that committee has roots in state statute.
It does.
And so, I think we'd better talk to council
Pretty soon.
quickly. So just from a procedural standpoint, that has to happen pretty soon, so we understand, how big a change is it, just in terms of drafting.
I don't disagree with that, Nathan. So we have to be in a position at our February meeting to really kind of concretely decide and describe what that warrant looks like.
That's not a lot.
You-
So, are you meeting with Adam in the next week or two then?
Just a quick
I-
question. Are you folks familiar with town council's hours? Office
Yes,
hours?
in fact, he was here today. Yeah.
Yeah.
Carter had, he was scheduled to meet with him today. I'll look and see when his next regularly scheduled time is. But
Usually
I'm not if I feel like we need to get some input from him before his next regularly scheduled time, I'll bring that back to Carter. The way Carter and I left it is, I says, I'm gonna go to the town clerk's office. I'm gonna do that on Tuesday. And then I says, I will get back with you once I see the documents. So I think that at that point, it would be a good time for us to say, all right, this is what we have, this is what we know. And then if necessary, that may have a dramatic impact on what our warrant article looks like. I think that we could, at the very minimum, propose an article that would bring both bodies together against existing regulations. I think we could do that. So
would you, against existing regulations?
Yeah, that the historical commission, they have state guidelines, statute that guides their,
Okay.
like, the biggest
Oh,
issue.
compatible with.
Yeah,
Okay.
right,
Yeah,
right,
gotcha.
right. I
Okay,
mean, like, I think that
So-
we can bring bodies together and still have the same,
okay,
Law.
so who is gonna? Who do we expect would draft the changes to the bylaw?
I'm gonna do that,
You're gonna do it?
Yeah.
Okay,
with help. And
With
with help
help
maybe
from-
from Adam Costa and maybe Carter.
yeah, is this something that would be in, like, Riley, your predecessor, Adam Birding, assisted with drafting the previous APD bylaw,
Right.
and, I don't know, is that something you'd be interested in providing?
Yeah,
some
I've done that
oversight?
more than a few times, so happy to help in any way you would find useful.
I'm reluctant to task you with that.
Okay.
You know, I think that for right now, I want to go back, Carter may task him with that, and I may ask Carter to have Chris help us,
Okay,
but I don't want to do that directly, not given the conversations I've had with Carter. The other issue is the time I soon have a new town manager, and that's certainly going to be something else that's gonna complicate
right,
it.
well, just on the issue of drafting these bylaws, I think unless Adam doesn't have limited time, which would surprise me,
Yeah,
I think having someone like Riley at your disposal.
I
to
agree.
Get it closer to
Yeah.
right the first time, doesn't have to be perfect the first time, but,
I agree.
give
I
him-
don't want to task him without Carter saying do that.
That's procedural thing, I don't really care about it, but it means you can ask Carter to
Yeah.
ask him or whatever.
Right, more,
But-
much more to be done with this item over the next 5 or 6 days, so. I wanna see it merged, I think that it's something that'll benefit, all parties concerned. Nathan, we did get some pushback, when Richard and I went before the select board, we got pushback from people that I didn't expect to get pushback from about merging the two groups. So I think we gotta do this right, or we're not gonna be successful.
Yeah, so are we discussing this now? Cause the December meeting I thought was gonna be the 19th, so I couldn't make that, I was busy that week.
Yeah.
I'd like to discuss it, cause I think there's more to it than that.
Okay,
So you made a comment, about Carter's thoughts about extending the district to the whole thing, and that's fine, I think the bigger point is that we can't take it for granted that the town or stakeholders like the select board are just gonna sign off on these things, like
yeah,
we have to have conversations, hear what their concerns are, address their concerns. One of the bigger concerns, so a couple things, I wanna table that just for 1 second and come back to it. So I support the idea in general as well, structurally, I think it makes sense, so I'm not against it, I think it's a good idea overall. I don't know, priority wise, there's other bylaw candidates we talked about. And 2 are extending the district at least to cover more of the area around Marshall Park, including the property that's there.
763.
763, yeah. So to me, if I could have one thing at town meeting, combine them, which is or keep that house from getting demolished, I think, and have the protections apply more broadly there, I think that would be my bigger priority. And then the other bylaw that this goes together is, updating at least our guidelines, if not the bylaw itself. And again, I guess I'm concerned that anything that changes the scope, we open up in town meeting, changing the scope of the APD or the APDC, that, what's gonna color that conversation is people's perception of the current performance, current and past performance of the APDC. And in particular, the way we sold this, and I think here's a printout, this is Rebecca Lantry's commentary to town meeting when we passed the APD bylaw. And there's a link to the YouTube of her talking on there. Is that this was gonna be administered with light touch. Long story short. Our reputation thus far, in that of the historical commission, is not necessarily of having a light touch. You know,
Give me an example.
the example, the windows in town when they were trying to do the updates to the Ritter, and our committee, this is, you know, mostly before I joined and then dragged on a little bit afterwards. Our committee was sort of perceived by some to be obstructing the town from moving forward with renovations to the Ritter. And that is the kind of thing that, that will haunt us if we try to do something that's, you know, and then the architectural, like the town now, like we're building this, that they're talking about renovating the Ritter. And my understanding is that the historical commission has provided feedback that they don't like any of the design proposals the architect has provided.
Historical commission
Members of the historical commission
has what?
provided feedback to the town that they do not like the designs for the Ritter expansion.
You know, the historical society said that.
That's why it's a historical society, is that different? Oh, that's different from the commission?
Yeah,
Oh,
the
okay.
societies over
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
they collect the town's antiquities and
They
do
click,
research.
okay,
and-
okay, that's not the commission, okay, that's good. Long story short is, I think we've done some good things, like, I think the, you know, the efforts that, Anthony's done and that we've supported to streamline the application review process.
Mhm.
Those are good steps. I think we need to do more on that clarifying and streamlining and sort of more clearly delineating the boundaries for, you know, not physical boundaries, but boundaries regarding like, you know, where we're involved versus where we're not,
Mhm.
before we ask the town to let us, you know, do more stuff, like,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I really like the historical commission, I really like this board and the people on it. I think from a skeptical outside eye, you know, one might might have concerns about having the folks who care most about the history of Lunenburg. On the one hand, it's good to have them involved in the architectural preservation because you want things preserved. On the flip side, there might be concern that that's just gonna culturally drive the board to be even harder for citizens in the town to work with. So that's my concern is, so I do support, like, I think it'd be much more efficient to have one board, but and I think we should take steps to start, like, I think, like, similar to the thing we did with the Brooks House, I think it makes sense to get the wheels in motion at least, you know, so that we have a shot at putting it on.
That's what we're doing
Yeah, that's what we're doing, but, I definitely think we should also be moving forward with a proposal, unless you guys are okay with saying goodbye to 763 Mass Ave, you know, I think we should definitely be moving forward to not necessarily cover the whole town, but extend, figure out exactly how far we propose to extend the district. And
here. That's a zoning issue though.
I don't care what it is, we need to get it on the warrant and get it done. Actually, the Architectural Preservation District boundaries are described in the APD bylaw. The village district is another thing. I would propose that we amend the two simultaneously. So yes, I think we should be working with the planning board on that. But I think we need to get that, I think priority wise, we need to get that done because, I mean, otherwise the demolition delay is gonna expire at some point. Is the clock ticking on that again?
They're in violation of the demolition delay bylaw since the beginning. Every day they're in violation of it adds another day to the 2 years.
Okay,
So it's going forward and the 2 years is being used up, but
All
it's
right.
being added to at the end. I haven't heard a thing
Okay.
from them.
so given the preference for the town to do these kind of bigger changes in the May meeting, I think we should similarly get that ready. I think we should get those two things ready for the May meeting. The guidelines update, I'm willing to take the point on that. I'll look at the bylaw and see if I recommend any changes there as well. Of course, we all have, you know, bring it to our board to review that. extending the district. Riley, if the board authorized me to work with Riley on that, I think that's something that,
Extending the district.
extending the district.
Personally, Nathan, I think we ought to prioritize what is it that we want to see done in the way of changes? And I think that we launched the merger concept first, you know, with
What,
the,
2 meetings ago?
What?
I mean, 2 meetings ago, you mean?
maybe 3 meetings ago. So, I mean, I want to stay focused here. And I think that if we put too many issues out there between now and a March 17th date for a warrant, then we're gonna end up getting none of those things. Now, I'm just, you know, I'm one person on this commission, you know,
Yeah,
but
well,
I think.
I'd rather
but I-
win when that goes forward, and
But
I'm not sure I can support it until we get the bylaw language clear. So I support it in principle, but I don't support it until we've gotten these updates made to at least the.
Okay, let's go back to how we started this process in this conversation, is that we wanted to see what legal issues would be prompted by a merger, okay? We still don't have an answer to that question.
That you've been the point person on that.
Yes,
That's
I
fine.
have, but I've also been working with the town manager and the select board. And I wanna finish that task before we decide, and we're close to that,
Well,
okay?
you wanna fix
Yes.
that, I don't. I
So,
wanna get started on this, if I wait
I
for that,
agree.
this
I
isn't gonna get.
but I think that if we went to the select board through the planning board and said, we wanna extend the APD to include 763 Mass Avenue,
Yeah,
I think that would generate a lot of questions and a lot of concerns on the part of people.
why?
Because first of all, it's spot zoning. The only reason why we're doing that is that we're moving the district to catch a house that we're concerned about. We have a way of making sure that that house doesn't get demolished. You know, the demolition, we already have a regulation. It says that there's a demolition delay mechanism that's in place, and they haven't complied with that. What makes us think that by extending the APD to that boundary line is gonna have any significant change on that issue?
Well, the demolition.
And in the course of trying to do that,
Well, it's very,
Then-
first of all,
then-
it's very clear why, and you know why, because the APD is not demolition delay, it's a demolition prohibition.
yeah, and that's at the very heart of what we asked for legal review.
No, that's what you asked for legal review. I
That's
asked for
what,
legal
no,
review.
that's
Hold
what.
on, hold on.
No, no.
And that's the very reason we are here, is to enforce that. So if you want to review it and we review it in executive session, that's fine. I'm not here to do the work of, and I think it makes sense to have legal review if there really is an issue there, which we can talk about in executive session. But right now, that's what's on
Okay.
the books.
All right.
And that's why we're on this
All
committee.
All right, Nathan, you wanna pursue bylaw changes, guideline changes, draft them, bring them back to the meeting in February.
Okay, well,
Right.
I would like to work with Riley to begin.
I would ask that you talk to Carter Terrazini before you bring the subject back to Riley.
Fine, I'll talk to Carter. So is the board okay with me talking to Carter
Yep.
and Riley and the
Yeah,
planning
Yeah,
board
absolutely.
about expanding
Yeah.
the APD?
Absolutely,
yeah.
but I don't wanna task a town employee without going through the.
Okay, I don't care. That's fine.
Yeah.
He's here to support us. That's his job.
Yep, I should go to Carter first, so he knows what's going, or he should be in the loop, so he knows what's going
Yeah,
on.
I'm sure Riley will keep him in the loop. Like, he talks to his boss. He won't agree to something his boss doesn't want him doing.
He'll do that, right, Chris?
Yep.
But I want
I would.
I want the request for you to do something to come from your boss.
Sure.
Okay. Any other discussions? I mean, I have a commitment to you all to pull records, do research, find out how the bylaw was reviewed by the Massachusetts Attorney General. And I will deliver that information back to you as soon as I have it. And then if need be, we would schedule an out-of-cycle meeting to discuss how we would proceed with any proposed changes to merge the two bodies together.
Mhm.
Okay?
And then what are you gonna do?
I'm gonna talk to Chris and Carter about, extending 2 things. One is extending what would it require to extend the district. I'll also talk to the planning board about that. I mean, going into this, my thought process is exchange, the amount entailed should be as little as just changing any maps and language related to the APD boundaries and possibly, I would recommend the village district boundaries as well.
Mhm.
So that conversation with planning board, Carter, Chris, and possibly select board might have to be brought looped in on that as well.
And then that would lead to a warrant.
And that would lead to a warrant article, yeah, to make those modifications. And, that's not gonna, there would be a separate warrant article. If we did have a merger article on there, that would be separate from, you can modify and then merge, whatever. I mean, assuming there's gonna be some level, merging the bylaws or whatever, we have to see what it looks like with the merger,
Right.
but anyways, I think those are good. And the other thing I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna review our current guidelines and the bylaw and get real specific about what I'm recommending, so I'm not speaking in generalities in terms of what I think we need to do to continue this process of streamlining and making it clear for homeowners and the town in terms of how we're gonna interact with them about changes to their properties.
And you're going to work with Riley on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm gonna work with Riley and, ultimately, of course, you guys review it with you guys and planning board, same kind of set of stakeholders.
Yeah. Sounds good to me. I don't see any conflict between the two,
I don't see any,
What you're
I don't see
doing,
any conflict,
what you're doing.
I just see a lot that has to happen between now and March 17th, that's what I see,
We'll see what happens.
yeah,
It's the future.
okay. The Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee activities, the next item on there. Anything else about merger of the two and
No.
changes? Okay. I've been participating in meetings. I actually, have great concerns about, the quality of the design work that's been done and where we're headed with the project. And I voiced my, concern about that to the committee as a whole. As well as, I've had multiple conversations now with, the chair of the committee. And I asked the committee chair, via an email which all the committee members got.
What we talking
About renovating this building and adding, an addition onto.
Are you
this building.
speaking as a citizen or are you
I
speaking?
know, I'm speaking as a member of the committee. And,
A member of the,
I'm speaking as the APDC representative to the committee. I'm not a formal part of the committee. I've been invited to participate as a member of this commission.
okay, and what are you saying to them?
It's a bad design. It doesn't meet the needs of the town. And that, I asked Michael Ray Jeffries to, not request a third round of design changes from the architect until both the town manager and the school superintendent have had a chance to sit down and talk with the committee directly. We have not had a single conversation with the town manager and the school superintendent as a part of our committee discussions since the design has started. And I watched a select board meeting where the select board charged the Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee to figure out a way to put a freestanding building for PACS at the same time it's working on this project, the revamp of Ritter and an addition to Ritter. And then the next night, school committee had a lot of concerns and a lot of issues about the drawings, the second set of drawings that they had reviewed. And I think that, it's time to stop the design process and get both town manager and the school superintendent in front of the committee and say, what do you want to do at the point we are with this project right now? And I've had 3 conversations with Michael Ray Jeffries now. And our most recent conversation was on Monday. And he says, well, I saw your notes where you've asked me to stop, stop the work until we've had a chance to have these discussions. He says, and I hear you, but I don't know if I'm going to do that. And as best I know, that has not happened. So, the first phase, there have been 2 sets of design changes, the original set and then the second set that came in. And, the architect is not up to the challenge of designing this project. And part of it is that I think that the charge that we gave them to put an addition on the west side of Ritter was legitimate initially. But when we started to look at what they came back with and their design, we had a brand new elevator being built and then maintaining chairlifts on this side of the building. And I think that, you know, if you're gonna do a project like this and you're gonna build a building with a brand new elevator, you ought to be doing it in a way that eliminates a need for a secondary chairlift. So there were reviews done by staff from the town, and there were reviews done. And Chris, did you actually see drawings?
I did. And the department head did as well. We had a meeting with Michael Ray
Yeah,
about a week ago.
yeah. And without putting you on the spot, if you don't want to answer the question, you don't have to. But were there concerns by staff about what they saw?
Yes. And so given it was an opportunity to provide input, several of the Ritter staff members and land use had some, and they provided it. And there does seem to be better options in terms of the internal operational layout, at least of land use. And we gave that input.
And that same concern was raised at school committees. Now, part of the problem is that we prior to the project going out for bid, there hadn't been any discussions about layouts and where people wanted to be. And then I think that process was accelerated beyond what it should have been because they were trying to obligate funding that was available through ARPA. And now we're living with that. I think that that's a big concern. The Historical Society, Nathan, one of their, because Michael Ray went to them, and the Historical said, that building, that addition is way too big and we can't support something like that on the end of the Ritter building. And Michael Ray asked me, he says, what do you think about building a freestanding town hall where the old primary school was? And I said, I think that the concerns that the committee had about what town hall would look like after the first set of design drawings and the second set of design drawings, where people were concerned about visibility and how would it look like on Mass Avenue. It says, if you tuck town hall, and everybody on the committee had basically said, we want presence on Mass Avenue. We want it to be decent presence. To then raise the question that we would put town hall back where the primary school was, I think is in direct conflict with the consensus that the committee had brought at both the 16 December meeting as well as the January 6th meeting. So I said, I don't think that's going to get the support of the committee. I says, and I think that personally for me, selling the town, adding and building new square footage for a town hall is not going to be well received at a town meeting. So that's the input that I've provided. I've spoken with other members of the select board and they have concerns as well. So I think that the solution to where we are is not to just keep proceeding, but to get the key players, town manager, school superintendent, in the same room with the committee would do well to move this project forward. Now, we are scheduled to have another review session with the architect on the 22nd of January. That's next week. And we'll see what happens. But I think that we're struggling to get something that's going to kind of as a final comment is that there's a committee of 7 people plus 1, me. And I've seen no strong consensus about where we're headed. I mean, when you got 8 people and you can't produce a set of drawings that people go, wow, I am all in on that. Let's do this. And then when you go to the town administrative staff And when you go to the school committee, and the school administrative staff, and there's no strong consensus there, just a lot of concerns, I guarantee you that this is not a project that's gonna get sold at town meeting in May. And what I told the chair was, I want to see something get done. I don't want us to go to town meeting in May and not have a consensus from the committee, and not have consensus from the town administrative staff, and not have consensus from the school committee. That's because it's a guaranteed recipe for failure in front of the town, and we don't have that yet. All right, any other comments, questions?
Is that meeting on the 22nd open to the public, or is that?
Yeah, it's a Zoom meeting, and the agenda with the Zoom link was published at 4:30 this afternoon. So you can get on and take a look.
Yeah,
And we've actually had some, like Anna's participated in the meeting. We've had some other members of the public who participated as well.
question. So I understand that you had some feedback as a member of the committee regarding sort of the process and getting other stakeholders involved. That's fine. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, at some point, yeah, they gotta get people's feedback and make sure the design is like meets the requirements and whatever. I guess, in terms of feedback from the APD about the design itself, what is your feedback, Ben?
On round one, the architect shows a second crosswalk less than 500 feet from the existing crosswalk. I says, that'll never happen. And round one, the superintendent was gonna be in the basement of the Ritter building. I says, you don't put the highest paid employee in the town in a basement office. Round one, I said, you have, an elevator, and then you have long corridors, to get from the new addition to Ritter. I says, and maintaining this over here. I says, corridors to get people
Okay.
from one place to another
Yeah.
are a waste of money to build and a waste of money to maintain. I says, and the architect needs to be more creative about how he links the two buildings together. Round two, the crosswalk remained in the project. And at that point, I was now joined by others who know that's never gonna happen. You know, so you gotta design the project with a single crosswalk that's already in existence. And, the layout for the town manager's office got moved from up here to the new addition, but to get to the town manager's office, you had to go through the assistant town manager's office, which is not appropriate.
Okay,
So these were all
So-
things,
so-
so these were all things that said, this is an architect who doesn't have the necessary skills to deliver a project that we can all get behind. And by the way, others made those same comments. I mean, there were things, one of the things that got picked up, not by me, but others, was you have record storage in an exterior office that has windows, and you have the conservation administrator in an interior office without windows.
okay, gotcha. As far as so I mean, sounds like good feedback for those points are good feedback for the architect to receive. I mean, so it sounds like what you've described so far is you haven't made any objections from the stand. As a participating member, you've made suggestions as folks on that committee are doing and need to do. But as representing the APDC, you haven't found anything, you haven't raised any major objections from like APDC village district bylaw standpoint in terms of the design, the exterior appearance, that sort of thing.
I think that the addition is overwhelming, and I'm not the only one that's thought that. And I've said that. I says, I would not do an addition that size. I says, I would look at, instead of having a U-shaped complex with the addition, plus the 1965 addition with the Ritter in the middle, I says, what I would do is I would explore an L-shaped complex by looking at maybe modifying significantly the 1965 addition, keeping Ritter somewhat intact. This is, you know, I would look at a way to expand the existing 1965 addition by maybe going up 2 stories, going out to closer to the street, you know, going closer to Lancaster. And I think that that would go a long way in terms of keeping the integrity of the historic building, which is Ritter, not the 1965 edition. And I think, and I actually did make that comment. I says, I think you could tear down and rebuild where the 1965 edition is, and it would enhance the appearance of the Ritter building. It wasn't, an appropriate ad in 1965. But I'm one member of the committee.
Yeah, there's cost stuff they gotta deal with. It's interesting, because, I mean, the one thing that, the scale piece in particular does fall under our purview. I guess, I mean, it's good to raise questions and make recommendations. I would ask that before, like, issuing any showstoppers to them for design things related to architectural or historic considerations, I'd like, I think it's fine to raise questions. I mean, you have to be able to have free flowing dialogue and say what's on your mind. But before saying, I would like that to come back here so that.
That's what we're doing right now. So I'm bringing it back.
I understand.
And you can participate in the meeting on the 22nd of January.
No, you're
Trust me,
representing.
I'm very much aware of the fact that I am one person of a commission that has 4 people on it.
Well, and you're representing
Yeah,
a commission.
that's exactly right.
So if you're gonna take a stand that, like, the APDC can't support this or something, you need to come back here and get it. You can raise your concerns and talk about them that way. You can't say the APDC, I would like you to not say the APDC objects until you discuss that.
Watch the meetings, Nathan, and you'll see how I handle that.
Okay, and again,
They're available.
right.
I'm very much aware of what you're talking about, and I would never say, well, that's the reason why I'm bringing this back, to get input from you all.
Yeah, I mean, you can say you have concerns about the scale, and you can bring that to us and say, here's the scale. I don't think we can support it. You get what I'm saying. So it doesn't sound like you're saying you haven't stepped over that line.
Yeah,
That's fine. Again, and this gets back to the point we were talking about earlier, of Richard was asking, what are examples of, are these committees kind of getting, being a hindrance, overburdensome to the town work? I just don't want to end up in that territory, that's all.
What's been really pleasing for me is that I've had other committee members reaffirm that preserving town hall and Ritter are important parts of this project.
Good.
Both, I mean, just about every, almost to a person. I mean, I've heard it from, members of the committee say more than once is that it's really critical for us to maintain the historic nature of the Ritter building and town hall.
That's great.
Yeah. And we've come a long way.
That's part of where my concern comes here too for us, is that, like, you talk about through your participation here that you think right now maybe it's not on the direction to passing, and you're trying to get the stakeholders in that you think need to get in the right direction, get the changes made that can make it pass. Because I think it is from a preservation standpoint, I do think seeing the Ritter included in the next round of town uses is an important step for preservation. Like, I don't think we have another funding strategy, building use strategy that comes near to guaranteeing the preservation of the original Ritter.
It's one of the reasons why I keep saying I want to sell something, because maintaining these buildings through this process is key and essential to their longevity.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah.
So, but we're clearly not heading there. I mean, once again, I go back and say, look at the small unit, look at the small sample, people that are on the committee. No one's wowed by what we have. Broaden it to the school committee and the school administrative staff and town staff. No one is wowed by what we have. That's not gonna pass town meeting in May. Where we're headed right now, it's not gonna pass town. And I don't want that to be the case. I want us to figure out a way to use these buildings. Like, I'm very concerned about town hall being just a meeting room, Now, the architect has helped that process, because all the conference rooms that people need in their immediate area, like for Chris and for Brian Gingras and for the town manager, they have to walk across the street because the architect didn't include any nearby conference rooms for those people in these buildings. That ain't gonna work either,
That's gonna be efficient for.
It does.
To work.
Yeah, okay, all right, so, I trust me, I don't wanna overstep my boundaries as a participant in this process, and I don't think I have anything.
Okay, cool.
All right, okay, so the next item, and I encourage you all, 22 January, I think it's at 5:30 or 5 o'clock, it's on the agenda. The agenda was just posted today. So you can get the Zoom link off of that and you can get the actual time. I'll tell you the exact time because it's on my calendar. Hold on. It is 5:30. So join us and you can listen to the conversations and put your 2 cents worth in. All right. Once upon a time, we talked about digitizing our determination of applicability form. And Brian Gingras and Logan O'Connell have said, you really should do that through opengov.com. And I saw a mock-up of how that would happen on Tuesday, when I met with Chris for the first time, since we talked about significant issues on Tuesday. I had met him once before. I think that it's a great idea. And my one concern is, if you're an individual homeowner who wants to do something at a house that's or a building that's in the APD, you have to register to get into OpenGov, the software system that's used by contractors and people who are pulling building permits. That's not hard to do, okay, but that's still like an additional step. So once you do that, then you get into filling out our determination of applicability form and attaching pictures, plans, whatever, via that OpenGov website. And I would like to recommend that we go that route. We would still have a piece of paper for somebody who doesn't want to choose to go that route. But I think that for the future, having that mechanism has a lot of value for us as reviewers, for people who would ask for review, citizens of the town who would ask for the review. And most importantly, it then allows for documents and records to be retained, not by an individual like me as chair or anyone else as an individual. They will now be retained in a system that the town uses for a lot of documents. The Conservation Commission has gone through this process now. And according to Logan, he says, everybody, even the people who are using it to apply for, notices of intent, he says, everybody seems to be really pleased with doing it this way.
Cool.
So,
Yeah.
Is there any objection for me sitting down with Logan and taking this to the next step of implementation? So, one of the things that we will have to do is we'll have to change the design guidelines. It says use opengov.com and instead of, we have to include that in the guidelines as an option. It's not in there now.
So how does this work? So they'll go to, let's say I'm going to Lunenburg website.
Yeah.
I'm going,
Yeah,
it's how to do whatever,
Yeah, so like on our website, our webpage for the APD, we have the forms, which you have to now download, print, fill out by hand. And upload.
And instead you'll click a link.
Yeah, they have the OpenGov link.
And you'll go to a sign-in page or register page.
Yep.
And then register or sign in, and then does it take you right to the?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so any objections?
No, I believe the historical commission has their demo delay
Do they?
form on there. I think Brian did that for me.
Yeah, I think this is the way to go. I mean, my only concern when I was talking to Logan on Tuesday, I says like, builders love this system, because they're constantly, filing for building permits. I said, but for someone who's gonna do like a window replacement or do something that has, requirement for our review, it's probably gonna be the only thing that they're doing. I says, so you're gonna make them, log into the system, establish an account. But it's not hard to do. He showed me that. It's pretty easy.
It's not unprecedented by any other means of doing anything nowadays of.
Yeah,
you have to sign up for this, you have to register, you have to throw in an
Yeah.
email address, so. And it's right in line with the digital age that we're going.
Yeah, I think even the old dogs will get it, you know? The young people, you know, like anyone under the age of 65, they're, like you say, they're all doing this now.
So building permits go through there as
Yeah.
well? Okay.
That's principally how it got started in the town, the
Um,
building permit process. They can pay for the, like a builder can pay for the permit through that process.
and there's things that we needed a determination of intent for that don't need building permits?
Yeah.
Like window
Yeah.
replacement doesn't need a building permit?
Right, well, there are some things, but the one thing that I really do like about this is that for anything that's significant, and Logan demonstrated this, is that if you're gonna pull a building permit for any building that's within the APD, there's a big flag. As soon as you get into that page, it says, you know, here's my property, there's a big flag that says APD. So then what the building commissioner would then know is, where's the determination of applicability or the CTA before he issues the building permit? And this will not be linked together. What happened before was that Brian would have to call me up and say, I got a request for a building permit, if you guys looked at this. And
Right.
now that'll be automatic.
Now, if it has a workflow engine, we could probably get it set up so that, like, we have to like either say no one required, or
Yeah.
they have to get
Right.
one before any building, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
So I think it's the way to go. And I thank Logan for taking the initiative to act, because like Brian and I talked about this probably 6 months ago, and I just didn't pursue it because I thought, we
Okay.
really want a person who's gonna do one thing to have to go into this system. It's great for builders, but for somebody it's like one-on-one. But I think that the accountability that happens once you do this, now the records are where they need to be, they're visible to the right kind of people, and it's not people dependent.
right, I guess, could you look
Tony,
into?
I would just mention, if I may,
Yeah,
you talked earlier about the importance of chain of command. So that's important here too. So it's all good. It helps the residents of Lunenburg, and that's our goal, our mission goal. But Brian and I are talking constantly about how we're going to implement this. And so where there's just benefit and it sounds good and there's no drawback, sure. But we just need to kind of clear it with the powers that be, keep everybody in the loop, tell people how it works and why and what we're doing, and what the overall operational strategic plan is. This is part of a much bigger reorg.
I agree with that. And I'm not sure, who does Logan work for?
He is the planning board administrative assistant. He's got a lot of technical skills and they're very valuable, but we just need to make sure, and all this is good so far, and Brian and I are supporting it, but we need to be aware of it. And so it has to be part of a bigger and more holistic strategic approach and plan. And that's what we're trying to ensure, that this is all consistent with the longer range vision.
Well, I felt bad for Logan because, he took over for Marjorie and, when she retired, but there was a big gap between when she retired and when he took over, and he told me that he was like, I guess she left him like a little booklet of things to do. And, what do we call those booklets, William?
Playbooks.
Yeah, playbooks. So, he was saying, she's not here, but I got a playbook and I'm kind of trying to feel my way through this. And of course, Adam Burney was long gone. And poor Logan was basically sitting there relatively unguided and probably.
Brian, that's not true. Brian was heavily involved in trying to keep the boundaries in place. And so, yeah, I just, as a new land use director, trying to keep the operation, sort of an overall mission-driven type of exercise. We just need it. You mentioned the importance of chain of command, and this is an issue here.
I agree. And,
okay.
In fact, I think that I'm glad you're participating in the conversation tonight, because it would just save me a phone call for tomorrow or for next week. Because I do think that, you know, I knew when we were chatting there that, you know, these were things that Brian had talked to me about before you arrived. You know, Brian was wrestling with the fact that there wasn't a land use director, but there was somebody in the office that was doing, you know, support for the planning board, AKA, Logan. And then eventually Logan, Brian got formally tasked with those responsibilities, and then Heather left. I mean, I think that there was, you know, some time for poor Logan to kind of drift around looking for who's my boss and what am I supposed to do? You know, who's my daddy? Who am I working for? But
That's a narrative
worked for you.
that I have. Brian was giving very clear and concise direction. So, and that's what we're trying to remain consistent about here, so that people stay within their lane. And
Yeah,
it's
I
just
agree.
important, just so everybody has the same expectation. When people take initiative, I'm the first one to say, do that. That's great. It's good you're doing that. If it helps the residents of Lunenburg and the boards, committees, and commissions, go at it. But we just need to be aware of it, and it needs to fit into the broader, plan of just making sure everything's efficient and consistent.
I agree. Okay, thanks for the input, Chris.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else about the open.gov process? All right, let's just do quickly the old business. Status town hall rooter repair projects. The chimney work is the first thing they're gonna work on. Both town hall and the Ritter are under contract. There was some question about whether the low bidder for Ritter could actually do the work. Carter brought him in, sat him down and said, this is what you gotta do. Can you do it for that amount of money that you bid? And he says, yes, I can. So they issued the contract to them after having that conversation. There was never the same type of conversation with the town hall contractors. Both contracts have been signed, sealed, and delivered in terms of awards. And town hall, the first work that's gonna start is on the chimneys. And Carter emailed me yesterday and said, this is what's gonna happen. I replied back, Richard, based on your interest in being a support person for reviewing the work on the chimneys. I says that you would be available. You know, we had talked about this at our meeting, I think back in December, about there being some liability concerns that Brian Gingras, the building commissioner, had expressed. So I've given Carter your name and said, you know, if you have any questions about, you know, the chimneys, you know, you're available as a town resource. The Ritter building, the schedule for work has not been prepared, and he did not know when that was gonna start and what they would do initially. And he was to have a meeting with Chris Ruth yesterday, and I don't know whether that meeting happened or not, because when I talked to Carter today by phone, he didn't mention any updates. And he told me via email that he was gonna meet with Chris. So my opinion is he probably didn't meet with him. You know,
Both those
so-
meetings did happen.
Did they really? Do you know when
Just
they're gonna start?
for your benefit. Yeah, they did. I don't know. I just know they did happen today. So
Do you
those
have
should
any
be.
idea what the
I
schedule is?
wasn't involved, but there should be a development that you'll be aware of shortly. I know the meetings happen
Okay,
with Brian
Okay.
and
All right.
Carter and Chris.
all right, good. All right, so we'll wait to hear back from them on when the work's gonna start here. But Richard is, he's an excellent mason. You know, I wanted to make sure that Carter knew that he was available. He would be, I think, a great source of information as that work on those chimneys begins. Brooks House. The Brooks House is in the hands of the Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee. God knows when they're gonna get to it.
Really.
I have, and that was by design, you know, Michael Ray Jeffries offered to do that to the select board, and the select board said, okay, put that in your committee's workload. Michael Ray Jeffries brought that up at the 16 December, no, actually, I brought that up at the 16 December meeting, and I said, hey, when are we gonna deal with the Brooks House? Because the clock's ticking on a warrant for recommendation for the Maytown meeting. He goes, oh, we'll get to it, you know. So I brought it up at the January 6th meeting too. And I'm gonna bring it up at the January 22nd meeting. Because quite honestly, there's so much on the plate for the Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee. By the time we see the committee have enough time to deal with the Brooks House, it's gonna be past the 17th of March. That's my prediction. And I expressed my concern about that to Carter. I talked to him about that today and said that I would rather see no recommendation go forward at the Maytown meeting than one that was not properly and appropriately vetted. And we're on that track right now, properly and not appropriately vetted. So,
Yeah, I would, yeah, just a comment, I mean, I don't, I would prefer the APDC not grant them permission to not have the proposal prepared on time. I mean,
I'm not.
I think they need to have a good, this is not a heavy lift, like their job, we scaled it, we gave them extra time to like do a little research, figure out some boundaries, like, it's something they could probably kick over to Chris.
Chris, if you want to address that one, Chris, that is within your bailiwick. I will put you on the hot seat on that one.
I mean,
Pass it by
wasn't
me
a
again.
rough-
Pass that one by me again.
So Chris, there was a warrant article that passed overwhelmingly at town meeting that we requested to be placed on the warrant. That basically, and we can send you the presentation that was made to town meeting, or we probably have video of it or whatever. But basically, are you familiar with the Brooks House?
Yep.
Okay, so the proposal was for the select board to take whatever steps were needed to present a, like, actionable, to put together an actionable plan to, including whatever lot lines, whatever legal and financial or things need to be done so that the Brooks property could be put up for auction for private sale, basically.
Yeah. And so, thank you. And so can I ask for the board to allow me to talk to Carter on Tuesday? I have a meeting scheduled with him. This is going to be on our agenda, and just have a discussion and get some direction about how I'm able to proceed. Because Tony and I talked about this, and I was, really excited to help. And then I was told, just wait for further direction. So let me talk to, have that conversation on Tuesday, and then I'll jump in as often and as much as I can. Because I've done several projects like that, and I would love to work on that.
I can tell you what he's gonna tell you, because he already told me today. He goes, I don't think we have time to do it, Tony.
Well,
And I don't think Chris has time to do it.
well, I propose, let's let Chris and Carter make that determination. I mean, it's not really optional.
Well, what I'm telling you is that Carter has already told him that once.
Told who that?
Carter has told Chris, the select board wants the Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee to do this work on the Brooks House.
Okay, I mean, I don't know why, it's pretty much like,
I agree with you.
it's technical.
Nathan,
Is this really technical and legal work? It's not policy work?
Nathan, I agree with you. I completely
Well,
agree with you.
My role, I don't take offense in anything, but I'm offered and I'm available to support.
Okay,
Good.
Yeah,
Go
I
go
might-
right ahead. I already know the answer though.
I may ping Michael Ray to see if I can see what his thoughts are, and maybe see if there's opportunity to lubricate this in that direction.
Okay. All right. You know what? We got somebody else. Hold on. I haven't been paying attention. I'm gonna let iPad 2 join us.
I've had two.
Yeah, I wonder who that is. All right, so I'm sorry for not seeing that sooner. It's one of the things I wish that Zoom was more interactive. Okay, so status of 763 Mass Avenue, anything new to report, Richard?
Nothing at all. I haven't heard anything about it. Same.
Same old.
Yeah.
50 Main Street, anything new with the owner down there? Nathan?
I spoke to Rob Bowen, just recently. he told me I should he talked to the other, member of the condo association, which is David Duval. And so I need to get in touch with David Duval now. So I just talked to him recently, and I'll follow up with David Duval. Okay? I did, impress upon him that it would be good to have we need to move this forward, so, whatever.
Jennifer Sanderson, a member of the Historical Commission's family, were members of that church originally in the 1840s. And her family had donated a stained glass window to that church at the time. So it has their name on it. So she was going to stop in and talk with them and give input from the Historical Commission.
Okay.
To see if there was any way that could be moved forward. Also, there's preservation grants. Did you see that on listserv, Tony, for historic structures on the National Register?
Yeah.
So that might be a possibility for, are you on listserv?
You guys talked about it before. I don't know that I am. But I think you might have sent out the information to do it.
We did, yeah.
So it was on listserv, so there are possibilities of grants, and they come around every year around this time. They open up for applications.
Are those federal, state, or private?
It'd be federal, because that building's on the National Register.
Cool. I'll mention that when I speak with him.
Are you on that listserv, Chris? The Massachusetts Historic Preservation listserv? It's
Yeah.
That's a great source of information.
Yeah, always have been. It absolutely is.
Good.
And John's, experience and wealth of information, which is not necessarily true about planning listserv and other resources, but that's a really good one. I agree.
Yeah. Okay, we still have our owner notification, which we put that on hold, and then along with our brochure and public outreach and communication document. Anything else from old business? Anybody want to?
One thing from the Historical Commission, I met with the Cemetery Commission and Carter. I don't know if I had said this at the last meeting, concerning the Goodrich cemetery plot that the Historical Commission is involved with restoring it. That project is going to happen in the spring. The Cemetery Commission is going to supply fieldstone. I'm going to, as chairman of the Historical Commission, going to provide supervision and volunteers. Maybe Riley might want to be a volunteer and learn how to, if you haven't already, to build a dry fieldstone wall.
Oh, I love that.
We're going to do that and restore the existing stones, clean them, repair them, reset them, and provide a gate so that plot will be encircled and then it'll be protected in the future. Also, I expressed the thought that a historical sign there denoting the history of the people interred there would, I always go on the premise that knowledge brings awareness. So if people see a sign there, they stop and read it, and then usually they're just driving by, not paying attention. And then they know what the place is, and then they have more of there's more knowledge about it, so there's more of an opportunity that people are going to protect that and watch out for it in the future. That cemetery plot was mint up until about 20 years ago. From the time I was a teenager driving by there, it was always perfect. And then 20 years ago, it was desecrated. The stones were tipped over and broken, and it's been that way since. So,
Is this the one up by Cherry Hill?
Yes.
Farm?
yeah.
Okay.
So that'll happen in the spring, and then the the Arnold Litch Cemetery plot on West Street Terrace, another, that was desecrated and lost for a number of years. And the town authorized, the DPW authorized, ground radar, so they located the, people that were interred there, so we now know where that plot is, but it's on, that whole area was developed in the 50s. So that cemetery was knocked down, before the property was sold, we think, and so it's now part of another person's property. So, and that is, the town's looking at taking that parcel back, through eminent domain. So that, and then once that's, that's part of the town's property again, then that, memorial will be set up there, to the people that are buried there. I think that's it.
Okay, anybody else got anything? We're at the point of the agenda, it says closing public comment. Does iPad 2 have any closing public comment? You're on mute, and if you don't, then I'll ask Chris, do you have any comments to kind of round up the conversation? Thank you for joining us, appreciate that.
Yeah,
I really
it was
enjoyed
great.
it, and I look forward to being at every meeting. It was a great discussion. I appreciate it.
Okay, so our next meeting, scheduled for 13th February. I promise you, I will not forget to send the agenda to get posted this time. And we will truly have a meeting on the 13th of February. One other comment that I might make, I don't know whether anybody's been watching the recent development regarding town manager, but the select board voted yesterday to enter into contract negotiations with Jennifer such and, she has a hyphenated name, but her bio, along with the other two candidates that they interviewed on Tuesday night, is attached to the agenda from Tuesday night's select board meeting. So if you want to see who the town is proposing to hire and what her background is, she was the town administrator or town manager at West Boylston. She's of the three candidates, the comment that I heard from the discussions that took place yesterday, I watched that meeting today, was that she really did a lot of research on Lunenburg and came to the interview with a huge amount of knowledge about who we are, what the town's, what our town issues are. And so it wasn't a unanimous vote. It was 4 in favor of Jennifer, one opposed. And you can watch the meeting if you want to see who that one opposed was. But I think it's really good, that the town is, I think Carter's been a great find for the town.
Yeah.
Even though he's been acting in an interim capacity, he's a wise guy, and I don't mean that derogatively. I mean, he is a wise person. And I think he's done a good job of filling in under some pretty, trying circumstances. Mm-hmm. And, I think that he did everything the town could have asked an interim town manager to do. And he actually hired you, correct, Chris?
Yes. Yes, that was a very professional process.
Yeah, he made your offer. Okay, so I think we're gonna have a time, I'd be surprised if we don't have a town manager soon. So it's good to see that happen. And then Carter will fade off into the sunset and head back to New Hampshire for his next interim town manager assignment sometime in 2025. All right, any other comments? We have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye. And we'll see everybody on the 13th of February. Thanks, Chris.
Folks, take care.
Night, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.